The story begins on a quiet evening. The city outside was dim, the streets bathed in a golden haze of sunset light. Inside a small cafe on the corner of Green Street, Ethan sat by the window, tracing lazy circles on his coffee cup. He wasn't waiting for anyone, at least that's what he told himself. But when the doorbell jingled, his eyes instinctively lifted. That's when she walked in. She wasn't dressed for attention, just a soft gray sweater, hair tucked behind one ear, and a notebook in her hand. But there was something about her quiet confidence that made the room fall still for a second. She looked around, scanning for a seat, and when their eyes met, she smiled. It was the kind of smile that could turn an ordinary evening into something you'd remember for years. Ethan nodded, pretending to focus back on his cup. But she walked over. "Is this seat taken?" she asked. "Not at all," he replied, moving his jacket aside. For a while, silence lived between them, the kind that doesn't feel awkward but charged. The air was thick with the smell of roasted beans and soft jazz music humming from an old speaker. She opened her notebook, scribbled something, then glanced at him. "You look like you're waiting for someone." "Maybe," he said, smiling faintly. "Or maybe I'm just avoiding going home." She tilted her head. "That sounds like a story." He chuckled. "Everything does, doesn't it? What about you?" "Writing one." "I'm trying to," she said. "But my characters are refusing to cooperate." That line, something in the way she said it, stayed with him. They talked for hours after that. About stories, books, the way rain changes the color of streets, and how sometimes strangers understand you better than people you've known for years. When the cafe lights dimmed and the barista began stacking chairs, she looked at her watch. "It's late," she said softly. "Too late?" She smiled again. "No, just the kind of late that makes you wish time would slow down." He offered to walk her home. The night was calm, streets slick from a drizzle that had passed an hour ago. Streetlights shimmered on puddles like scattered gold. They walked side by side, their shoulders brushing now and then, talking less, feeling more. At her building, she turned to him. "Thank you for the company. Can I see you again?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded. "Tomorrow. Same place, same time." And just like that, she disappeared behind the door, leaving a faint scent of jasmine in the air. The next day, Ethan was there early. 5 minutes. 10. Then half an hour. But she never came. The cafe bell jingled 100 times, each one stealing a little more of his hope. By closing time, the seat across from him was still empty. He went again the next evening. And the one after that. Nothing. A week passed. Then 2. He began to think maybe he had imagined it, a beautiful dream that dissolved with the morning light. But one night, while walking home, he saw her again. She was standing across the street, under a flickering lamp, holding an umbrella though the sky was clear. Her expression was distant, almost sad. Ethan called out, but she didn't react. She turned and began to walk away. He crossed the road, following her down the narrow lane that led toward the river. "Wait," he called. But when he reached the end, she was gone. Only her notebook lay on the stone bench beside the water. He picked it up. Inside, the first page had a line written in her neat handwriting. "Some stories begin where others end." Ethan didn't sleep that night. He read the pages, fragments of half-written stories, sketches of people, bits of poetry. On the last page was a short note: "If we ever meet again, it means the story wasn't over." The next morning, he went back to the cafe. The barista, an older man with kind eyes, noticed the notebook. "You knew her?" he asked. "Yes. We met here." The man sighed. "That girl used to come often. Always sitting by that window. But she hasn't been around since last winter. Heard she moved away suddenly. Left no contact." Ethan's pulse quickened. "Last winter?" The man nodded. "Almost a year ago." Ethan froze. A cold shiver crept up his spine. A year ago? But they had talked just last week. He opened the notebook again, flipping through the pages, until something fell out, a photograph. It was of the cafe window. The same seat. The same view. But in the reflection, he could see her sitting there, and himself, across the table. His heart pounded. The photo looked old, The colors faded, the edges worn. Was it possible? He laughed nervously, shaking his head. I'm overthinking. It's just a coincidence. Still, he couldn't resist returning to that bench by the river. The air was colder now. The water shimmered under the moonlight. He sat down, notebook in hand, and whispered into the silence. If you're still here, if this story isn't over, a soft voice came from behind. Then let's keep writing. He turned. She stood there, the same soft sweater, same notebook now closed in her hands. For a second, the world stilled. No sound but the quiet rustle of wind and the heartbeat in his chest. I thought you were gone, he said. I was, she replied. But I couldn't stay away. She sat beside him. I left because I was scared. I was sick, Ethan. I didn't want you to watch me fade. He looked at her, trying to read the truth in her eyes. You're here now. That's what matters. I got better, she whispered. And when I saw you again that night, I wasn't sure if I should come back. I thought you'd moved on. He smiled, eyes glistening. Some stories don't end. They just wait. She laughed softly, tears slipping down her cheeks. He reached out, gently brushing them away. Then let's finish ours, he said. Weeks passed. They started meeting again, walks by the river, coffee at the same spot, sunsets shared in quiet laughter. The world outside kept spinning, unaware that two souls were catching up on borrowed time. One evening, as they sat watching the lights ripple on the water, she turned to him. You know, when I was gone, I used to imagine this, us right here. I wrote about it in my stories. He smiled. Then let's make sure this one doesn't end in the pages. She looked at him for a long moment, then leaned her head on his shoulder. The city hummed softly in the distance. Stars blinked above. The quiet evening that once held loneliness had turned into something extraordinary, a reminder that, even after the darkest pauses, love finds a way to resume its story. And somewhere in that calm night, between their laughter and the sound of water flowing beneath the bridge, it was clear.